Hi and welcome to video number 3 of my Ask the Expert series, whatever we're going to call it, where I'm finding people that are experts in their field that don't necessarily find that they are the expert, but it's all about finding out about stories, finding out about backgrounds. And what I'm all about is unearthing powers. So today I've got with me Martin Pemberton, who's got a really interesting story, background, and we're just going to be talking and try to keep it quite chatty. But I'll tell you what, let's get straight in with it. Tell us a bit about you, Martin.
Hi, mate. Thanks for having me. So, yeah, my name's Martin Pemberton. I'm 44 years old now, so cracking on a little bit. But my story essentially is from the age of 8, I fell in love with playing football, and that was my thing. I felt free on the pitch. I loved playing it. I felt like I was good at it, and I made that decision at 8 that I wanted to be a footballer. There was no questions asked in my mind. It was one of those things I just knew was going to happen. It weren't like being arrogant or whatever, but just this. I don't know if you've ever had that feeling of just knowing something is going to happen, but you can't explain how or why. Whatever.
It's a gut feeling.
You just know. You just know it. I said to somebody yesterday, it's like when you used to play with a toy train track. You used to get the train, and when it fit on the tracks perfectly, you feel it. And I said it's that kind of thing. But you decide at 8, not knowing all the things that you're going to have to maybe go through, challenges. You just go, "Oh, this is what I'm going to do." But played football, got older as I started playing. Picked up a few injuries along the way. So once I got to 14. I'd gone to the National Football School trials down in Lilleshall in Shropshire. So it was like for the best players in your age group. And I got down to the last few, but you have to have a medical. And so what we found in the medical was that I'd fractured my back 3 years previously, stress fracture. So I couldn't go to the football school. I had to have a year's complete rest from sport. And so basically it was a year out of doing absolutely nothing. So from being really active, football every day to zero, basically swimming, and that was it. So that was probably the toughest time in that journey getting there. And I still never doubted myself. I still believed that I'd do it, but that was the point at which it became probably, I suppose, a little challenge that we face at times in life. Carried on and it picked up with the football again, and then I ended up starting on the old YTS scheme back in 1992 at Oldham. 2 years apprenticeship. Unbelievable time. It's one of those times in your life where you probably get treated like when you first go into the army, where you get treated like absolute dirt. But there's something about the camaraderie between the lads and all the players that it's also the best time of your life. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. You're learning and you're growing. And then I turned pro, I think at 18. So I'd taken a 10-year period to go from, conception of idea to actually achieving it. That's something that when I speak to kids sometimes about setting goals and following goals. I kind of always mention that there could be a decade-long investment in what you're going to do to reach your goal. Certainly nowadays with the instant gratification and everything on demand, you can get lost in that. I think younger generations understanding that success can take a decent amount of time. It's not going to happen in 5 weeks. It's going to take you 10 years of practice every single day,
Especially as everything's so instantly available nowadays. And as soon as you've put something on social media, you're looking for likes, you're looking for comments, refreshing all the time.
We've become desensitized to it, haven't we? I even around the talk about even watching TV now is completely different to when I was a kid. There was only a few channels. You had to watch. The programming wasn't geared necessarily towards you. It was for the family. If you missed an episode of your favourite programme, that was it. You was done, and you had to wait till 6 months later till they put them on the repeats to catch up. Whereas now, there's none of that, because you can pause it, you can just binge watch, you can go back and watch it anytime. So while we didn't have the advances in technology, I think it was giving us patience and that kind of having to wait for stuff. It's like now I've got my Xbox. I don't know about you. I just download it straight onto my Xbox now. There's no saving up some money to get on the bus, to get into town, to go to the shop, to get it to come home. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think while we're doing that, we're losing the ability to be patient, to wait, to put kind of work into things. Now, that's not people's fault. It's just the sign of the times. But I think these things have been lost. But then once you get into the real world, I think the real world still demands these things from you. It's just that younger generations haven't had the opportunity to practice, and then we get stuck into them and we criticise them for not being able to do what we want them to do, but they've never practiced it or trained to do it. So why would they be able to do it? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. If the approach is different, then you can't expect the outcome to be exactly how the experience that you had growing up. So
it's a bit like the event being swimming, but they've been training to play football or basketball their whole life, and can't swim, and then we throw them in and we go, why can't you swim? And it's like, well, I don't know how to, you know.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't know how to, but that's one of the things that kind of, I suppose, like growing up that you find. But so when I became pro at 18, I think that's when things changed, and I think it became a job then. So it was a different kind of enjoyment, not the same as what it was before. There was more pressure linked to performance. And also, I suppose, playing on a Saturday would determine how well the rest of your weekend went, if you either won or lost or played well. It spoiled the week, certainly till you got the chance with the next game. But played football for another decade or so. And one of the other things I talk about with people is the ability or the opportunity to set goals. So my goal from 8 years old was to be a pro footballer. But when I got to that, I didn't set the next clear target. You know what I mean? Like, I should have gone, I want to get 20 games in the first team, and then I want to get another 20. But I would just, it's like I say to people when you train for like a marathon or something, after you finish, you kind of don't want to train anymore. You feel a little bit flat because you don't have that next
there's no pull
to go for.
Do
you know what I mean? So it was similar with football. Still trained hard, still had a good attitude, but I think I didn't have that clear kind of focus on that next smaller goal that would have propelled me, I think, to the next level, I suppose. But eventually retired in 2007, and then I moved into becoming a learning mentor for disadvantaged kids. Kind of just fell into it, really. There was no real plan, but essentially I'd swapped one area where you get racially abused and kicked and verbally abused for another one. Do you know what I mean? It was just in a different environment, you know.
Different environment,
and I did that for 6 years, and in the meantime I'd got married, and 2 daughters had come along as well. So a lot of changes had happened in that time from retiring that I didn't really notice at the time. In hindsight, you can see it, but 6 years into working as a learning mentor, I kind of ended up struck down with depression, anxiety, and then that led me on to then having suicidal thoughts, mate, where at that time dying was like just the best option, because I just had enough, like a feeling like that. I just wanted to rest from it, essentially. And then started on my recoveries. I got help and support, but I kept relapsing. So I mean, it's like what many of us do now, whether it's in whatever area, we work a certain way to get to a certain point, and then we stop and we start patting ourselves on the back, or we think the job's done, and then what we invariably do is slide back to close to where we were. And that's what I did with my recovery periods on and off until I got to the point again where I thought, right, I can't carry on like this up and down. I need a little bit of stability. So what I did, I just thought, right, I'm going to analyze and look at what I'm doing when things are going well, because it occurred to me that a lot of us, we don't do that. We only look at things when they're going not so well.
Yeah, so we tend to be quite critical and quite analytical when it comes to the bad things that we'd like to change, as opposed to celebrating when we've done well.
Yeah, and I think as well, we love being happy, so we're just happy that we are happy. So we just like enjoy the moment and go with it. So once I analysed everything, and again, it wasn't like premeditated, but I just wrote all the things down that I was doing, and in front of me were just these, I counted them, and there were just these 11 things. So with my obviously links to football, I immediately thought of the 11 players on a pitch, and then I remember before squad numbers and things, when it was 1 to 11 on the shirts, managers used to say, if you go out and win your battles 1 to 11, you win the game. So that was the next thought and I thought, I'm onto something here. And then so I looked at these things and I put them into like a football formation. But then I realised not only for your mental health, these things are probably just universal principles that are always there in life. It's just that we don't potentially understand if or how we're using them or not. And so I realised then this could not just be used for mental health, this can be used for many areas of people's life to help them kind of get a little bit of control, some self-reliance and a little bit of resilience. And so that's how the 1 to 11 was born, mate. It came out of probably one of the worst times of my life.
Yeah.
The best thing came out of it, essentially, one of the best things.
So it's great, really, because when I first saw it, when I first came across you online, I saw the pro footballer, and then I saw the 1 to 11. So I knew I was a football fan years ago, not so much nowadays, but I'm talking when Leeds United were really good. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Back in the day, 2000s, 2001. But, you know, and I saw the 1 to 11, I thought it's a really cool way to apply that to kind of mental health or personal development or whatever kind of angle you're going at, because sometimes sport can be a very masculine place to be. In terms of when you have guys football teams, you know, there's a lot more nowadays, which I think is great, where you have mixed teams, or there's a lot more inclusivity. So what is it? What kind of things do you centre on in the whole 1 to 11? Then can you tell us any of the 1 to 11?
Yeah, no, I can tell you how they all came about me. But the other thing as well, what you just mentioned about sport there, is that what I've kind of looked at as well is the link with football and life. And I thought about all the football matches I've ever played in, and how it kind of mirrors life. That you never in a football match were we always in the ascendancy. Like, didn't matter who you was playing against. There was always a spell when you were under the cosh or struggling, or the game changed. Someone got sent off, and then you just always had this. The other team had the wave after wave of attack, and the crowd were on your back, and you just had to come together as a team and see out that 15-minute kind of storm, and then gradually you'd get your way back into the game and you get on the ball. And I thought that's just kind of like how I'd experienced life at times, where these storms had come. And I was like, right, what do I do in those moments? Which part of my team do I kind of just go, right, that's my base. These are my foundations. These are what I go to when I'm struggling. And then once I get my confidence back and I've weathered that storm, then I start going a little bit more expansive and forward and stuff. So the first thing on my list, and I have this set down in a team formation, is the goalkeeper, is acceptance and responsibility. And what I say to people is that's the only position that you don't move within the 1 to 11. That's fixed, is that keeper, because without acceptance and without responsibility, personal responsibility, it's very difficult to change your situation. And I couldn't have changed my situation without those things. So that has to be, any kind of transformation or change comes within acceptance of accepting your situation, the life that you have right now, but more importantly, accepting yourself for who you are, because that was where I was struggling. I couldn't accept myself, or after football, I totally identified with being a footballer. That's all I'd done for my whole life. So when I came out, I was kind of lost, didn't know what I was good at, didn't think I was good at anything, didn't think I had any skills that were transferable to take forward, because I'd just picked a football around for a living, you know. So with that came a lot of self-doubt and a lot of self-criticism that led me down the path to becoming, you know, suicidal eventually.
Well, I suppose, like, in that respect, where you've come out of that, because it's a job. When you're professional, like you say, it goes from being just a passion that you love doing to then everything about you has to represent the club. It has to represent what you're about. You can't do anything, so your social media changes. Everything about you changes, because you have to take into consideration your role as a footballer. So I'm just wondering if there's anyone watching this that has an experience of anyone, because it's very, very similar, it sounds, to when you come out of something like the army. So your life is that. You have your skills that are specific to that, but they don't necessarily easily apply to the rest of life. It doesn't mean the skills aren't there, because the skills are there. It's just you can't see it.
Yeah, definitely. And you come from a different world if you've been in the forces, and where there's that camaraderie in team sports and stuff. So when you come out of that, you lose that support structure. You're moving into a different world where the sense of humour might be different, and people are different and act differently and see things differently, and you kind of feel like you don't necessarily fit in. But then what you've also got is people who I suppose are around you who they can't understand it, because they're not you, they don't know what you're going through. But one of the other things that I discovered, and the next thing on the list, was communication and support, because I got a lot of support through my experiences with my mental health, like from the Professional Football Association and stuff. But people around me couldn't give me the support that I needed. So they were trying to help. They were trying to offer me support. They were saying, "Oh, just get yourself busy and just, you know, all these kind of things." But it wasn't what I needed. So in my mind, it was doing more harm than good. So I started blaming them. But the reality was, I hadn't told them how deep this had gone for me. So they thought I was a little bit bad. They didn't know that I was thinking about like killing myself. So how could they possibly give me the support that I required? I hadn't told them. So that's another thing for people to maybe think about. If you're getting frustrated with people who are around you or the situation, just have a think about whether you've actually been as real as you can with those people about where you're at, because you've got to give them the opportunity to help you, but they can't do that if you've not spoke to them.
Yeah, you can't turn up with a bucket to a house fire.
No,
it's not going to work, and it is really easy to, you know, it's really easy to not do that because you think you feel the feelings, but when you say it in words, it's really easy to hold back and try and get it across. But then you're also thinking about how the other person feels. Are you going to be a burden on them? Are you going to put pressure on them because they've already got their own things going on?
Absolutely.
Whereas actually the only thing that's important is that there's that honesty, and that the other person that wants to care for you knows the crux of what's going on, so that they can then base how they're helping on the severity that you're going through.
Some of the toughest conversations were saying that to people about that's the level of the depth that I've fallen to. But like you said, there's something quite refreshing, I think, and there's a relief in there actually when you do say it and you can say it, because you don't have to carry that burden anymore, and you kind of figure out that it is all right to come out and speak about it. Certainly as a man, you know, coming from a sporting background as well, where certainly in football you were classed as weak and it was frowned upon if you had any kind of mental weakness. So again, but for men as well in general, we carry that through our whole lives, don't we? Growing up, the stereotypes, there's the beliefs, it's the way people speak to us that'll be the don't cry like a girl, or, you know, just get on with it. That's all inbuilt. So when you get to these levels where you reach maybe crisis point in your life as a man, you've got all that inside your head that's telling you that you are not allowed to feel this way. And so you're ashamed then for feeling that way. And so therefore you're not going to go tell anyone because you're embarrassed and you don't know how people are going to respond to that. And if they will say, oh, just, you know, man up or get on with it and stuff like that. Because I had one occasion where I did come out and say to someone I was feeling, I was suffering with depression, and they said, what have you got to be depressed about?
That old chestnut.
You know, but they were only looking at me from what they could see and what they believed about my life. But that was a response that I didn't need at that time, because I booked up the courage to come out and say it, but then that's what I was met with. So it immediately made me retreat and go, right, I ain't saying that again.
Yeah, that was it. Because it is hard trying to find, I suppose, they talk about having quite a tight inner circle, so you are, and you feel the 5 people closest to you. But sometimes there are people that are very close in some respects, but they just don't think on that level. They either don't know you on that level, or you've not got invested on that level. And that's not anything against that person necessarily. But again, if you open up conversations that are quite free flowing, kind of like this one, this would be a place where we could talk about anything, but you can't do that with everyone. So it's almost picking and choosing where your conversations are, or at least seeking out somebody that you're happy or that you feel open to having that conversation with. Because
exactly right, and that's brilliant, because so number 2 on the list was communication, followed by number 3, which is support, which is what we're talking about. So that is, you, like you just said, identify people who maybe have a certain impact on you in your life. You can feel that energy from them. There might be someone that you'll know that you can go say that to, and that's the person to say it to. So that again is another thing. Have you got the right support in place in terms of people? But on the flip side of that is, how are you supporting yourself? Are you doing as much as you can do to help your own situation as well, which is difficult in them moments, but it's trying to just identify what can I do? What can I do this? Can I eat a little bit better? Can I try and get out for that walk? I know I maybe don't want to, but it's like, so it's being able to look at yourself and say, okay, how can I also help myself
Yeah.
as well as having support, you know. So that was 1, 2, and 3 on the list, and then the fourth one was my beliefs and values. So started looking at, again, belief, because when I was struggling, the belief was that I didn't have anything to offer, I was no good.
Yeah.
And there was no evidence for that. I just decided that was what I had chosen to believe, you know.
Yeah.
In contrast to in my recoveries, I believed that I could get better, and I believed that I had something to offer. So I say to people, a belief is just an idea that you've taken on without any proof. And again, those are what you pick up from parents, friends, the world that you experience. So I say to people, start questioning those beliefs, especially the negative ones you've got about yourself. Actually sit down and say, are they true? Because often they're not, you know. And then with beliefs came my values, identifying what values are because values are just traits that are personal to you, and I suppose your motto or code for how you want to live your life, right? But when I was struggling, those mottos, those values were non-existent, they were nowhere. And so that's the other thing, when we're not living to our values, we kind of know we're not as well, and then that helps us to not feel great either. But even once you live to your value system and you get in alignment with it, it could be that even it's like telling the truth, having a difficult conversation, but if you know it's the truth, you always feel all right about it. Whereas you might tell someone a lie to make them feel better, but you feel terrible. Do you know what I mean? So you'll know when you're living, deciding what your values are, and then using them as your own personal kind of code to live by. Because even you can do that, and no matter what happens in your life, if you live to your value system, you'll be all right with the outcome. But the trip up point with your values is that once you get set with them, what a lot of people do is they then judge everyone else by those values. And that's where the judgment of others comes in. So just because I act a certain way, that don't mean everyone else should. But what we do is we go, I can't believe they've done that. Why are they doing that? They shouldn't be doing that. And it's like, well, that's the way that they live. Leave them to live that way, right? It might not be how you would do it, but you've got to just live to your system and leave them to so that's one of the kind of what I say to people, just be aware of that. If you do get straight with your values, don't then put them on other people, because
it's that thought of judgment and being judgmental about people. We naturally are judgmental, so we make judgments based on past experiences, based on what we've been taught when we've grown up, like you said about beliefs. So we then have a right and a wrong, or a right way, and then everything else isn't the right way. So once you get so deep into your values, so one of my values is everything I do, I really enjoy it when I'm helping people. So then even if I'm feeling a bit crappy or I'm feeling a bit unsure, that then helps almost like a compass to say, well, is this the right decision for me? Because is this going to lead me, not necessarily towards helping people, because that's not always the case, but is it going to take me away from that? Is it going to take me away from my value? Then it's not the right decision. Is it going to edge me either in a straight line or I'm going to go towards it? Then it's probably the right decision. And like you say, afterwards, you know, what you can get from it, the value you can get from it, and actually knowing that itself just gives you that element of control back.
Absolutely. And you just feel then, like you said, you're in alignment with who you want to be. And then the last one of the kind of back form keeper was just simply gratitude. I just kind of realized how much I wasn't thankful for, and I realized how easy it can be to just be grateful for the smallest of things. So it's just finding that one little thing that you can be grateful for, because the changes on your physiology, then that changes your emotional state, thoughts, feelings, behaviors, and then your results, essentially. So trying to develop that, not just saying, oh, I'm grateful for my kids or I'm grateful for my family, but actually saying why are you grateful for those things? Because it just helps you to find the good things in your life, which there will be something, but of course when you're in what mindset, it's difficult to find it, and you'll do anything but look for anything to be grateful for, you know. But that's certainly something I try to use constantly, thinking and looking about what I've got going for me rather than against me, essentially.
I think gratitude's a big one, because actually, you know, writing on a mirror saying I am amazing, there's some people that say that works for them, and there's so many different ways to kind of show gratitude. But what I've said to a few people, and what I found works is actually the gratitude. If you then say why you're grateful for it, you then remind yourself of, because those are the things that make you feel amazing, or they make you feel warm, or they make you feel true to yourself, or they make you feel loved or safe, or whatever it may be.
Yeah.
So then actually, if you do write them down, or even just recalling it, even just being grateful, even if you're feeling crap, then well, I am grateful for that. I know that even though I feel terrible. Why am I grateful for it? Because when I'm not feeling terrible, it makes me feel like this. And then actually, when you're feeling bad, you don't normally trust yourself, or you can fall into well, why should I believe what I'm thinking? And then you're going, well, actually, I've thought it before, so it must be true.
Yeah.
It can't not be true because I've experienced it. And sometimes that can just turn things around, can't it?
And so that was the kind of the foundations and basis of the things that I use when I am struggling. But then the next pieces of it are that I didn't have any goals when I'd finished football. I didn't really have any clear goals about where I wanted to go, what I wanted to do with my life. So I say to people, that's really, goals are important. Not necessarily that you say, oh, I'm going to achieve this and I'm going to achieve that, and that everything you are is hinged on that. Because if you use goals or achieving stuff as a way to either feel good or feel bad about yourself, it can also put you in a difficult place where you're unhappy if you don't achieve them. But what I say to use goals is just to have a little bit of direction, a little bit of focus, a little bit of purpose in your life. And that, that goal may be that for someone right now, I am gonna get up out of bed tomorrow, and I'm gonna get dressed, and I'm gonna go outside for 10 minutes. That could be their goal, but it's so important, because it just keeps you moving in a hopefully in a forward direction. But also it just helps you to keep your life hopefully on some sort of track as well. Because the other thing, it's like I say to people, it's like an aeroplane. If you're just 1 degree off course, if you're flying from Leeds, Bradford to Heathrow, you'll probably be all right. But if you're flying from Leeds, Bradford to LA and you're 1 degree off, you're not landing in LA. You're going to be
you'll be across the world somewhere.
You know what I mean? So so being aware of then your goal and what you're moving towards is important as well, because it's always about those little adjustments. Just like when you're driving on motorway, your car doesn't always just drive straight. There's the tiny little bits, and it's the same with anything that you're traveling towards in life. There's moments when you've got to have a little bit of an adjustment. So I say to people as well, so with goals comes the plan, the process of how you're going to achieve it. Having some idea of how you're going to get to your destination or way of doing it, So, and then once you've got your plan, and so once I had my plan in place, it was always then about discipline and consistency to carry it out. And those two go together. Like if you're disciplined, then you get that level of consistency, and vice versa. But those two then are underpinned by your commitment to whatever that goal is. And so identifying why that goal is important to you. So for instance, for me, it was like, right, I want to live, I want to stay alive. Why is that a priority? Because I've got 2 little daughters. What would be the consequences of not achieving it? Well, I'm not here anymore. That's not going to be great for me or them. And then why would that bother you? Well, I won't get to see them grow up. I won't get to play a major role in their life. So that's now where my commitment comes from. That means something to me. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm emotionally connected. Whereas before, when I got to being suicidal, even my daughters couldn't propel me into taking action at that point, because that was something else. Like I say to people, even love that you might have for your own kids, sometimes it couldn't. That couldn't propel me into action to change, and even then, I'd feel even worse about myself. So there's that vicious circle of, hell, if you can't even do it for your own kids, who can you do it for? Do you know what I mean? But I needed to do it for me, not for them initially. Well,
there's almost like 2 different conversations you're having. Originally, it was you're questioning your own worth, whereas now you're questioning what you're going to be missing. So it's what somebody else is worth to you. So it's then, and then you can work on looking at how much you see yourself as, and how much value you get from yourself and what you think about yourself. But at the end of the day, it's, there is no, and I completely agree with every single step. And, I've got work that I've done, and it loosely follows them same steps, because there are certain steps that we need to identify and look through and work through, but there's no cardboard cutout formula for doing it.
No.
And that's why really I wanted to, as I was saying to you before we started recording, is I'm doing these videos because I want, even if just one person, I don't care if there's 8 views or 800 views, 8 million views, if one person watches it and goes, I'm going to try that, and then that has an impact on their life, do you know, that's what we're here for. You know, there are always places for you to get support, but they're not always the most obvious places.
Not at all. No, not at all, mate. And the final one on the list was time. I kind of realised then that time was my most precious commodity, time and energy. And I started to look at time, and I started to look at how I was using it in my recoveries and then in my relapses, and just looking at how I was investing time either in myself or in my relationships with people, and how I was actively spending time doing the things that I wanted to versus things that I think I should have been doing. And then how much time I was wasting, because I was wasting a lot of time as well. So I just kind of collated all that data over a week, a month, and just looked, and I thought, you know what? Because one of the things most of us say is, I don't have time, and if we do, we just, it's not, that thing's not a priority, right?
Yeah,
so,
absolutely. Yeah.
And then the other thing with time is just, it's everything. Like, and I said as well, like, I noticed for me, when I was either going into that depressive state, it was about the past, and then all my anxieties were about the future. It was never, I found it very difficult to focus on being right now. Yeah. So that's what I also say to people, is just be present and come back to as much as you can, being in the moment you're in. And what you'll notice is your mind will want to shoot off all the time into past and future, but it's trying to just concentrate and focus on coming back to now and just how you're feeling right now in the moment, and just starting to, once you can do that, you can hopefully lower your levels of anxiety, and then trying to kind of just understand that it's what you do in this moment always that's going to create that future if you take action on it, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Because life is a series of moments. It's a series of building blocks, just like we're building blocks from atoms and molecules and whatnot. So the past is past moments. The future is future moments that we have had no control over. They will happen, you know, and it's how we perceive them almost, as to how we deal with them. But this one, the one right now that we're in, that in a couple of seconds is going to be a past one.
Exactly.
This is the one that we've got control of. And actually, being here now, I was only saying to someone earlier, actually, and it's a slight tangent, but it's just looking at the how we've been brought up, and I think the culture. And the culture's always been in terms of when you look at pensions. So it's always been saving for the future. So you're almost putting yourself in a safety bubble that you think is going to prepare you for the future. Whereas actually what it's not doing is it's not making sure you're getting everything out of now. Because I dare say I've come across people that will pay into a pension, or they will, you know, they'll do other things, they'll save money away, but then they'll struggle to afford stuff right now. And what use is that in the future if you're not enjoying now?
Well, we might not get to the future either.
Well, exactly. Exactly. It's moments we can't control. Yeah.
No, it's like you said, we plan, and it's good to have plans, and again, like goals, direction. But I think it's that being flexible and open to change, and understanding that nothing. What I understand now from my experiences, mate, is that nothing is permanent, and that I own absolutely nothing. It's all on loan to me. Everything, everybody, everything. I don't get too attached to anything now, any outcome, because I understand that by being attached to outcomes and chasing things to the point where I desire them that much, it actually puts me in a different state that I don't want to be in. And actually, when you do get stuff, how often does it like disappoint anyway? You know, it's like I would say, best nights out we've ever had have been when we've just gone to the local for a few bevies.
Yeah, when you build it up.
We didn't get until 6 o'clock, and we had the best night ever. We saw loads of people we hadn't seen for years. But the nights that we planned never go as well as we expect. So that's the other thing with people. Like, you've just got to not get attached to things. That don't mean you don't care about them. It's just one of the phrases I use now, mate, is just if I'm okay with everything, then everything is okay. And that's what I try to practice. If I can be all right with the situation, then I'm okay. If I can be okay with not having the latest iPhone, then I'm all right. It's only when I desire and want something so much because I think it's going to make a difference to me that it then puts me in this different state, and then I get it, and I don't feel no different. So I understand.
Yeah, because that desire comes from you thinking that it will make you.
Yes.
It's not just that you want it, it will make you a better person, or it'll make you the person you want to be because you have it, and then you have it, but then you always want something else to become you.
And if you think of how we're being conditioned now, advertising, that's the narrative that you need all these things to be happy, and you're only seeing people's highlights, therefore you compare your life and think that your life's not very good compared to their highlights, not understanding that that's not their life. Like, everybody's got their own issues, and nobody's got everything sorted. It's all a work in progress.
Yeah, of course.
But it just takes you to a point where once you understand that, then you don't believe everything you see here. Do you know what I mean? You kind of can take it with a pinch of salt and come back to focusing on what you're doing, because that's all we can take care of, isn't it? Our own little piece of the world, right? Yeah.
And it, and this year, as challenging as it's been with the pandemic and the lockdowns and stuff, I've personally found that it's been a fantastic way to clean out some of the stuff some of the things we've perhaps not dealt with before, things from the past that we've put to one side. Really appreciating the things that we've got rather than the stuff we need, because the stuff always stuff we need, as in want. Because if we desire something, we've not always had access to it. So, and then we find that actually we've got a desire to speak to people, which we've now told that we can't do as freely as we could before. So then you really start getting into actually what is your value, what are your values. So it's been a really good way for me to kind of hone in on what my values are, and hopefully, there's more people that have done that as well. But when you look at the media, the social media, it is a bit doom and gloom, and it doesn't necessarily ask you to say to yourself, well, actually, how can you make the most out of this year?
Yeah, definitely. It does, and like you said, I think with social media and things, it's very it just guides you towards seeing the world in a certain kind of way, or the way that you choose to, and then you're not open to everybody else's opinions or other things, and that's why, like, we get the arguments, and now where you can't disagree anymore. You've got to fall out with someone. You can't just have a difference of opinion. If you don't agree with me, then I can no longer be your friend, or I don't like you. And we're getting this kind of tunnel vision narrative in our worlds where we're not able to open ourselves up and have a little bit more critical thinking. But it's just the way that kind of, I suppose, we are, But essentially, mate, those are those 11 things that I identified. I'm sure there's more, because there will be.
Like absolutely.
Said, people can change it, put whatever they want in that suits them, and then the next bit now, what it's evolved to, is just something that I call the 12th man. Like in football, they talk about the 12th man in the crowd, and that's action. If you don't take action on anything, then nothing will ever change anyway. So action's your 12th man, the way to go and kind of change things for yourself, So essentially, mate, that's how what I've discovered through those experiences, and I try now to live to that to the best of my ability, mate, and tell other people about it. And like you said, hopefully, if it helps just one person, maybe not end up going down the road that I did, then that it served its purpose, right?
Yeah, or at least if you find yourself going down that road, remembering some of the things you've said and gone, actually, I'm just going to give this a try. Because every little, like you were saying about the journey, so I can't remember where I heard it, but spaceships, when they go into the moon or whatever, I think they're on target about 1% of the time. They're constantly changing course.
Yeah.
Which is exactly what life is. It's you're never ever just going to go in a straight line to where you want to be. It's never as the crow flies, as they say. But yeah, it's just amazing for me to find people like yourselves that, and I would consider myself one of these people as well, that are so open to be able to talk and to be able to reflect on something that's such a difficult time. And like we say, sometimes it has felt in the past like it's been suppressed, or that what's the right medium to do it, and actually stop it from, because I was talking to somebody earlier about antidepressants now, all these tablets and things are anti. So it almost leaves you feeling like it's wrong to be that, or that actually it's taking you away from being that. And actually, it's almost because this is part of the past for your experience. I've not quite been down that road, so I've got a different story. But that's what builds us. It doesn't define us, but it's what builds who we are and what experiences and what skills we have today, doesn't it?
Absolutely, and it's not then, like you said, your story helps define you. It's just then don't hang on to your personal story, because like you said, it's gone. So the tendency sometimes for us is that we then buy into what's happened to us, and we keep buying into it without trying to change the story or move it on a little bit, because in some way it kind of serves us, or we get something from it. Do you know what I mean? Or there's fear as well of change, because that's one of the things, isn't it, for a lot of us, we fear change, don't we? That's why, you know, what's happened this year has been scary for a lot of people for a number of reasons, but it's been that the world has changed as well. And so we don't necessarily like things to change too much, too quickly. No. And that's what kind of, but they change when we want them to.
Well, of course they do, yeah.
That's the thing, you know. So once you kind of start to realise that and go, well, things are going to change no matter what I do. What can I do with my own little piece of the world? And then just try to control that as best as you can, and allow other people to do the same, you know.
Yeah, just because we can't change some of the things, it's actually quite exciting if you flip it around and you say, well, how can I become more adaptable? How can I see something coming running at me, and then how can I learn to dodge it, or how can I learn to deal with it? And actually, it's almost, because I'm big on superheroes and stuff, so it's almost like building yourself another power. And know that feeling when you go, do you know what? I've been through that before. It'll be absolutely fine because I've done it. I've cracked it. No matter whether I don't know what it looks like now.
Yeah, no, it is, and it's that adversity, seeing it as an opportunity. Can you flip it and go, right, what's the opportunity here for me? Is it right? It's an opportunity for me to try this, or to do this, or to show what I've learned and I put it into practice. Do you know what I mean? Rather than, like you said, looking at it as a negative. It's always about perception, isn't it? That's everything. Like, it's just how you choose to see something is how it is to you. But it's that understanding that it looks completely different to everybody else, right?
Yeah,
that's the other thing.
Of course, it's custom to everyone. There's not one size fits all.
That's it. And I think that's hopefully, like you said, the point we're getting to now, where people recognizing that, being more accepting of people and understanding, and again, that leads itself into more conversations to be able to talk about subjects like this more openly, that understanding and acceptance. But then the kind of next part I'd like to see now is where we've got the conversations going, like what me and you are doing now, and we want that to happen. But hopefully now the next bit's then going to be, right, what we're going to do about it, rather than just keep staying in the conversation, if that makes sense. It's like we can talk about it and get it out, but if we stay talking about the same things, then nothing's going to change. So what's the next step? But that'll come in time, you know. It's just it's a natural progression. But the fact that you can even say it now and talk about it, and have more people being open about it, because like you said, if you get a physical injury, no one's bothered, like, but a mental injury or kind of illness is still frowned upon in certain areas. A lot of times by the person who's suffering with it, right? Because I know I did. I was probably the one who was more judgmental than anyone else.
Of course, yeah, absolutely. Because
I'm talking,
well, because it's inside you. When something's an external injury, or something that you can see on an X-ray, or something that you can see a physical sign of, you then link the sign to the reason and the explanation of what it is. Then you know the road to recovery, and then you know the plan's it's all laid out for you. But when it's invisible, because it's part of your physiology, it's part of your, whether it's your nervous system or whatever it is inside your brain, you just haven't got that. So it's all about discovery, isn't it? So
same with what with COVID, I suppose. It's all been about discovery, dealing with it, unprecedented, and all those kind of things, mate. But essentially, mate, that's where it came from. That's what it is. And so now, you know, I do workshops on that with people, individuals, companies, and just trying to expose people to it and tell them about it. And then, like you said, they can decide what they do with it, whether they want to use it or not. But it's just a tool as well that you can use as an ongoing tool, because when things do go wrong again, you can kind of look at those 11 points, 12 points and go, which one am I not doing? Or what have I stopped doing? You know, or I didn't communicate really effectively then, or what, you know what I mean? I'm not taking responsibility for my part there. That's why that happened, etc. I ain't got the right support in place. Do you know what I mean? Like you can always go to an element of it and go, right, yeah, do you know what? My time management or whatever, what crap there. I spent a load of time messing about, and that's why I didn't get the job done. And so it just enables people to identify quickly where maybe they could have done something a little bit different, or where they've maybe stopped doing what they were doing to feel better.
Yeah, rather than sitting and thinking that you've done everything you can. There's nothing more you can do. You're actually identifying possibly chinks in your armour, but it's also opportunities for change. So, you know, you're giving yourself the key, aren't
you? Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Perfect.
And like a good football team, all your elements have to come together to kind of do well and win the game. So it's the same with this, really.
Absolutely. No, I still love that reference. I'm still imagining almost like a Subbuteo pitch with all the little things and the numbers and stuff.
That's how I have it set out, like, yeah.
That's amazing. I think that's been fantastic, and thank you very much for sharing that. If anyone wants to get in touch with you or is interested in your story or working or even just find out a little bit more, what's the best way for them to get in touch?
Yeah, well, I'm on Facebook, just Martin Pemberton. I have a Facebook page which is called Just Want to 11 It. The website is www.justwant11it.co.uk. Find me on LinkedIn, Martin Pemberton, an email, Pembo, Pembo 1-11 @gmail.com. So any of those, mate.
All on brand.
Or Instagram, yeah, Pem 1-11 on Instagram as well. So
I mean, yeah. I'll do my best to put as many as I can under the video, so we'll link it all up anyway. But
no, that's fantastic. I really appreciate the time, and it's been great meeting you, mate, and speaking to you. Yeah.
Yeah, you too.
Yeah.
Right, Pardon?
It's fantastic what you're doing as well, mate.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. It's just about trying to spread that word, isn't it? In our own little way.
Definitely. Cool. All right, mate.
Thank you very much, Martin.
Take it easy, bud.
Cheers, buddy.